All right, so now we're going to look at the OS module, which is the operating system module, and it gives us information about the operating system, the platform, the user, things like CPU architecture, memory. So if you're building applications that are really integrated with the system that it's running on, then you're going to use this quite a bit. One area where I use this a lot is with Electron applications. So Electron, if you don't know what that is, it's a framework where you can build JavaScript desktop applications, or I should say you can build desktop apps with JavaScript. And VS Code is actually built on Electron, along with a lot of other things like Slack, the Postman HTTP client. There's a lot of really popular apps built with Electron, and you use this quite a bit when using that. So I have this OS.js file, and I'm just going to bring in OS. So we want to require it. And the first thing we're going to look at is arc. So what arc will do is it will return a string identifying the operating system's CPU architecture. And there's a lot of possible values as ARM, ARM64, IA32, x64, x32, which is probably the most popular. But let's go ahead and try this, and yours might be different than mine depending on what system you're running. So let's say os.arc, and we'll run the file with node OS. And you can see I'm on an x64 system, and I'm actually on a Mac Pro right now. So that's arc, and a lot of these are just going to be just console logging the method. If you want to do some other stuff with that information, you can, but I'm just showing you what it gives us. So the next one is platform. So what this does is it'll return a string identifying the operating system. And there's a few possible values, but let's just console log this first. So we'll say os.platform. And if we run this, you'll see that it says Darwin for me. So Darwin is Mac. If you're on a Mac Pro or an iMac, a MacBook, whatever, then it's going to be Darwin. If you're on Windows, it's going to be Win32. If you're on Linux, I believe it's just Linux. And then there's like OpenBSD. There's a couple others as well. But usually you're going to check to see if you're on Windows, Mac, or Linux, which would be Darwin, Win32, or Linux. So you could say, like, you know, if os.platform is equal to Darwin, then console log you are on a Mac. Okay, so if I run that, you'll see, actually it should, oh, I forgot my parentheses. Let's actually put an else in here too. We'll say else if, let's say else if os.platform is equal to, I think it's just Win32, then console log you are on Windows, and then I'm just going to do an else. I know there's others as well, but we'll just say you're on Linux. So console log you are on Linux. So if I run this, you can see you are on a Mac, and depending on what you're on, it'll say whatever. Actually, I should make that capital. All right, so that's platform. Now we also have CPUs. So CPUs. And what this does is it'll return an array of objects containing information about each logical CPU core. So now you're getting into some deep hardware stuff. So let's say os.CPUs. And you'll see I have an array. So these are all just objects in the array. I think I have, what do I have? It's 12 cores on this system, I think. So you can see for each one, it has the model, the speed, a times object with user, sys, idle. So it just, I mean, I've never really had to use this other than an application that I built with Electron that would show your system information, but I've never needed it for anything other than just displaying the info. So the next one is free mem, and that's pretty self-explanatory. It'll show the amount of free memory in your system. So let's console log os dot free mem. All right, so this is the number of bytes that I have free. So I think it's about 5 gigs if we want to, which is pretty bad. This is I think this is a 48 gig system. But let's go ahead and change that. Let's say console.log, and I want to make this in gigabytes. So let's actually use backticks here. We'll make this nice and neat. So we'll say free memory, and then say os dot free mem, and I believe we can just divide this by 1024 3 times, and that should give us the correct gigabytes. So let's try that. Yeah, so free memory 5.3 gigs, which is pretty bad. And we can see our total memory with total mem. I have a lot of stuff open. So let's say os dot total mem, and I'm actually going to grab this line because I want to do the same thing and format it. So instead of free memory, let's say total memory, and let's change this to total mem, and then we'll run it, and you can see total memory is 48 gig. Which is correct. If I go to, let's see, if you're on a Mac and you go to about this Mac, there it is right there, 48 gigs. And I only have 5 free. All right, so the next one is home dir, which is pretty self-explanatory. So if you need the home directory, I'm going to console log os.home dir. And you can see for me, it's just users / Brad Traversy. We can also see the uptime for the current machine. So let's console log os.uptime. So that's my uptime. Now we can convert this into like days, hours, minutes, etc. So let's do const uptime. Set it to os dot uptime, and we'll get the days. So we'll say days equals, I'm going to math.floor, so I'm going to round down the uptime, and we want to divide that by 60, divide it by 60, so the hours, minutes, and then the, hours, minutes, seconds. That should give us the days. And then to get the, let's see, to get the hours, let's say hours, then we would do uptime 60, 60, and then percentage or modulus 24. That should get the hours. And then to get the minutes, say mins, and that's going to be, let's see, uptime just by 60, and then that's going to be 60, and then for seconds, that's going to be uptime percent 60, and then we can just do a console log of, let's say, uptime. And we'll do days first, so days, and then we'll do hours, let's put a comma here, and then minutes, and seconds. All right, so let's try that. Did something wrong. Minutes is not defined. Oh, I called it mins. minutes. Okay, so uptime for this machine is 23 days, 3 hours, 29 minutes, and 34 seconds. Obviously, yours is going to be different, but I mean, it's pretty cool that you can tap into all this stuff, you know, all the hardware of your system, and use that in some kind of application. So next we have host name, which does just that, returns the host name of the operating system as a string. So let's say os.hostname. So, whoops, forgot to put my parentheses on. So mine is just macpro.local. All right, and then you also have network os.network interfaces. I'm not going to do that because it shows like my IP address and stuff like that, but you can also get that information as well. All right, so that is the OS module. In the next video, we're going to look at two different modules, the URL and the query string module.